Happy bright early Thursday morning. This is Frank Rock. This is the House Foreign Sports Channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you have a great day today. Last night, I brought you kind of part one of my look at the numbers. I looked at the team statistics. One thing that I was really interested in looking at was the team statistics in terms of, what did these teams look like in losses versus their regular numbers? And I thought some things kind of stood out. I talked about how for Creighton, it's pretty obvious they're a better shooting team. There's some numbers along the way. With Creighton, people talked about when I did the initial video previewing the game on Monday, said, well, if we can get them in foul trouble. They don't get in foul trouble often. There wasn't a single game I saw a dude foul out. There were some times I saw 4 fouls on them, but it was rare. And teams do not get to the foul line a lot off of them. In losses, the difference in the numbers in that is for Tennessee versus Creighton, it's about 121 difference. Teams shot that Tennessee lost to in 8 games shot 121 more free throws than the 9 teams who lost to Creighton, 218 to 87. That's a pretty significant difference. Teams just aren't making things happen. So Creighton is stopping teams without watching them. That leads me to believe teams aren't getting to the basket. They're not able to drive often on them. So Creighton's game is kind of holding teams to that mid-range game. So Tennessee is going to have to be able to shoot well to win this game. If they shoot like they did against Texas last week, they're going home. All right. But there are paths to victory. Rebounding, I think that is one. That one could go either way. But I do think Tennessee can win that battle. Creighton's not a good offensive rebounding team. Tennessee can keep them off the glass. If Tennessee can get their second chance points. And the big stat that stands out to me in Tennessee's favor is going to be ball control. Being able to hold on to the ball versus creating turnovers. Creighton is one of, if not the worst team in the nation in terms of creating turnovers. Tennessee's good at it. There's a big, big difference right there. And one thing I did not mention last night when I recorded the video was that teams who play physical against Creighton give them trouble. Tennessee's going to have to dip into their physical repertoire tomorrow night if they're going to. They're going to have to play physical. They're going to have to, get as rough as they can get by without allowing Creighton to go to the free throw line often. So if you're Tennessee, I think you got to factor in you're probably not going to shoot a lot of free throws. And on the other hand, you cannot allow Creighton to either. But, that was the team matchups I'll talk about. Now I want to get into the individual. And this is a matchup we've not really seen a lot this year in terms of Creighton goes about 6 deep. And occasionally they may go 7, but for the most part, they go 6 deep. Majority of their production comes from 4 guys. They have 4 guys averaging in double digits on the year. So I'm going to share my screen. We'll pull up the old presentation here that I had last night. Hopefully you like that. If not, if that's something that's not your thing, I apologize. It is something I worked on there. But going down here to the bottom, of course, I talked about all these numbers up here at the top. I compared teams, their points for, their points against, their percentages, assists to turnovers, free throws, all that stuff. So I want to get down here to Tennessee's numbers. So what I have right here is points per game, rebounds per game, assists, turnovers, and then free throws compared to season percentage. So Tennessee, and then on the right where I have the slashes, what their season numbers were. So in losses versus season. So we can see, look at Jonas Adu's numbers here. 7.9 points per game, 6.1 rebounds per game in losses. For the season, 12 points per game, 7.6 rebounds per game. In losses, he did not have a single assist this year. He nor Tobe Awaka, either one, had a single assist in 8 games this year. Adu averages just a little less than 1 per game. Awaka, he barely even registers on the assist radar. Looking at Awaka again, too, and I'll come to the turnovers and free throws. Awaka in losses, 3.3 points. For the season, 5.2. Rebounds, he's down about a rebound per game. In losses, 3.7 to 4.6. Looking at turnovers, neither one of these guys, I'll give them credit, they do not turn the ball over often. So they're both a turnover per game. And for the season, Adu's right at one. Awaka is under one with it. Looking at free throws, Adu actually shoots better. He shot free throws better in losses than he did for the season. Awaka was about 11.3 points below his season average in losses. So pretty interesting there. And we've talked about Jonas Adu. We've talked about his numbers this year, how he has to stand out, how he has to show up. His numbers right there, it shows you the difference in him in wins versus loss, or just for the season versus losses. Josiah Jordan James, here's another one. In losses, 5.5 points per game. For the season, 8.2. Rebounds, he's pretty similar. In both, assists, pretty similar. Turnovers, pretty similar. Here's a guy. Here's my thing, and some of you comment on here. I totally agree with you. I've said it for years. Josiah Jordan James' game should be getting to the rim. That's his game. He has the ability. He has the build. He has all these things going for him that he should be a get to the rim type guy, but he's not. He settles for the three-pointer or the jumper. He has a decent mid-range game. He can get to the rim if he doesn't. He should be a slasher type guy, but he's more of a shooter on it. In losses, he shoots 88% for free throws. For the year, 82%. You just think about what this guy could do if he's getting to the free throw line consistently. He's a good free throw shooter. That would make a big difference on this team if he were able to do that. I would like to see more of that with him. I think obviously he is what he is at this point because any game now is his last or could be his last at Tennessee. So would I like to see, him all of a sudden come out of it and be that slasher? Absolutely. I don't see it happen unless he gets that opportunities. So his numbers pretty consistent. His points, though, he's almost 3 points per game less in losses than he is for the season. Dalton Connecting losses actually 4 points more per game, about 0.6 rebounds more per game. Assists pretty close. Turnovers a little bit more. Free throws down. That's where his numbers stand out. 33 out of 55 and losses 60%. How many of these games they lost that were close could that have made a difference in those free throws? South Carolina for sure. And even though he had big points, he still missed opportunities. For the season, he's 76.8 on that. Vescovy, he kind of is what he is, 6.3 in losses, 6.5 for the season. And really, a lot of his scoring happened in that Kansas game where he went for, I think it was 21 points. His rebounds, he's 1.3 less in losses. Assists, he's the same. Turnovers, he's about the same. Free throws, he's around 80. Either way, Zakai Ziegler in losses, 11.8 for the season, 11.7. Now, you got to factor some of that in. And those couple losses to Purdue and Kansas, he come off the bench in those games. His rebounds are about the same. He's actually down an assist per game in losses versus for the season. Turnovers up a little bit, 2.5 to 2.2. And then here's another one. His free throws in losses, 13 out of 23, 57%. For the season, 72.5%. I actually thought he and Connect were lower than that. But according to what I've come up with on the numbers and the percentages, they are at 76.8, 72.5. So that's a look at Tennessee, just kind of their comparison. I didn't include in Jordan Gainey. I didn't include in Jemai Mashak. Gainey, funny enough, his numbers in Purdue and Kansas, he was in double digits both games. I don't know in any of these other losses that he was moving back on it. And I could probably go back and pull that up, but not. But now getting to Creighton on this. Creighton's basically a four-man show, and I highlighted these four here. Taylor Shearman, Trey Alexander, Ryan Kalbrenner, Stephen Ashworth. Okay? Baylor's not a big team, or Creighton is not a big team. Here. Kalbrenner, 6'1", or 7'1", 270. Alexander, Shearman, Ashworth's your point. He's about 6'1". Alexander, 6'4". Shearman's around 6'6". So if you look at their points per game, 18.3, 17.7, 17.4, 11 per game. That's your four guys on it. Rebounds, Shearman leads them at 9.1. Kalbrenner, 7.6. Alexander, 5.7. Ashworth, 3.3. Their numbers, the only difference is Shearman's pretty close. Alexander was one I noticed in losses. His numbers were down. He was down around 2 points per game. Kalbrenner was down about 3 points per game. The rebounds were similar. Assists and turnovers. These stood out to me. Their assists and losses, each of them's Sherman, Alexander, both down over one per game. Ashworth's were down. Kalbrenner, his was actually up a little bit. And then their turnovers, all of them's turnovers were up in losses compared to for the season. If I'm Tennessee and you got Mason Miller in here, he can shoot some threes. He only averages 5.7 for the season. And toward the end, when I'm looking at, he rarely scored. So it's Francisco Farabello. He scored more than Mason Miller did, but it looks like Farabello comes off the bench for him based on what I've seen with it. So I think it's a pick your poison here. I really do. And if I'm Tennessee in a lineup, because one of my talking points with this, and I'll get back to the screen here as I come off that. I didn't even share it, so it doesn't really matter here. But if I'm Tennessee in a lineup with it, obviously Jonas Adu's going to be on Kalbrenner. Here, let me kind of share this back up here, just so I've got it in front of me. Here we go. So here's those numbers I've got across the board here in the bottom, and I've got the main four guys highlighted in this kind of light blue. Sherman, if I'm Tennessee, I'm putting James and Meshack on him. I want my best on him. When I bring Jemai Meshack in, I want Jemai Meshack balls to the wall on Baylor Sherman. Trey Alexander, that's where I go Vescovy on him. Alexander's about 6'4". He's probably a little, I can't remember Vescovy's height right off the top of my head, but that would be a matchup I would put for Vescovy. Kalbrenner, obviously you got Adu. Zakai Ziegler, lockdown Stephen Ashworth. Okay. And then I don't connect Phil. He's the worst of the 5 defenders in that starting lineup. Put him on Mason Miller and let him see what happens. Now, if Miller has that outlier game, or Farabello, they have that outlier game to where they're all of a sudden going off, you might have to look at things a little bit differently. But if I'm matching up Tennessee like that, I like Ziegler on Ashworth. Ashworth's had some big games for Creighton this year. Kalbrenner and with Adu and Awaka, stay out of foul trouble. If you stay out of foul trouble, you'll be okay with them. Those two can make it, but don't make the silly foul. But I would, especially if guys like Vescovy or James are not doing their thing offensively, I'm bringing Jemai Meshack in quick and early and getting him on Sherman or Alexander one. I would probably put him on Sherman just because I think Sherman does more all around, but both guys are really good players. They can beat you in numerous ways. Tennessee can match up good with this team defensively tomorrow night. Your Jordan Gainey, when he comes in, he's been playing better defensively as they've gone along. Meshack will do his thing. Awaka, no silly fouls tomorrow night. Stay out of foul trouble on it. And then, if you see Estrella or anybody else, you know that there's foul trouble there. But I really think Tennessee, even though there's things that scare me about this matchup, the assist to turnover, I like that for Tennessee's favor. I like that a lot with it, especially if Tennessee's playing controlled and taking care of the ball. If Tennessee will shoot about their average, I think they can hold Creighton down. I think they can hold Creighton below theirs. In Creighton's losses this year, listen to some of these 3-point percentages. Against Colorado State, 20.7. UNLV, 27.6. Villanova, 20.8. UConn, 23.1. Providence, the second time, 23.1. Providence in the Big East tournament, 23.1. Marquette, they were 37.5%. Butler, 36%. Providence game 2, they were 48.3. So that was kind of their game where they went above, and you would kind of wonder how they lost that game. But I don't know. I'm going to release a video later this evening on this. Keys to victory, and I'm going to give a prediction on this. I'm still obviously know who I'm going to pick. I don't know how comfortable I feel with it, but the more I look at things, the more I look at how Tennessee can match up, I'm liking Tennessee's chances in this. Is it going to be a task? You're damn right it is. It's going to take a lot. They're going to have to bring it tomorrow night. But I hope you guys enjoy the content I've been putting out. Went a little long on this one, but, like I said in the video, man, I put a lot in it. I broke a lot of numbers down. I don't know that I'll do this again. But if you like the content, make sure you like it. Share it out. If you haven't already and you like the content, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. It's free. There's no money involved in it right now. But my name's Frank Rock. I hope you have a great Thursday. And always, go Vols.